Homeless guy asked for toilet paper. I live in a rural suburban area, and like everywhere, the houseless population is on the rise. My house is catty corner from a park and bridge, which appears to be a magnet to the houseless. A couple of Saturdays ago, our doorbell rang around 2 p.m. I opened the door to find a young man of about 25, maybe 30. He introduced himself as Mark and said he was sorry to bother me but asked if I could spare a roll of toilet paper. I'm an interested neighbor and said, "I don't recognize you. Are you new to the neighborhood?" Mark told me that he is living in his truck with his girlfriend, and they're staying on the bridge for 3 nights. That's how long the police will allow the homeless to stay parked in one space in my town. We then had a brief friendly conversation. He told me about how he ended up without a house to live in, and I invited him to the food pantry I volunteer at, and told him we give out toilet paper there too. I went into my closet and gave him 4 rolls of TP. I have it on a subscription from Amazon, so we always have a lot. Mark was so very grateful. He said, "I can't believe you're giving me 4 rolls. You wouldn't believe how much TP my girlfriend uses, especially when she has her period." I asked if she could use some feminine hygiene products, and he said, "Are you kidding? That would change her life right now." So I asked if her knows if she prefers tampons or pads. He said tampons. With that, I filled up a bag with 3 boxes of tampons and 2 bags of overnight pads. Again, I have an abundance because of Subscribe and Save. When Mark saw this, he was very happy and even got tears in his eyes. He told me that he was so embarrassed to have to knock on a door to ask for toilet paper, and he never imagined that it would have gone so well. He asked if there was anything he could do for us, so I told him to just stay safe and take good care of himself and girlfriend. I haven't seen him since. Traumatized by Bunny as a child. I never seem to remember to bring this up in therapy, and I feel like it hasn't really impacted me in any way, but I'm kind of curious why not, because it should. When I was 9, my parents moved us from Queens to just outside Orlando. My older sisters were not happy. I was too young to, I think, really comprehend, and was kind of excited but sad. I left my lifelong friends behind. We stopped by a cousin's house in VA on the drive down to spend a day, and I don't remember details, but my parents bought me a pet rabbit. I loved him, even though I can't remember his name. Anyways, we got to the new house pretty late at night, and my dad told me to put the rabbit in its cage outside in the backyard on the concrete pad, as he didn't want it in the new house. I set him up, got him comfortable, and slept my first night in my new room. Woke up super early, and the first thing I did was run to the fridge to get him some food, and went out to feed my new buddy. He was still, didn't really react or move as I opened the cage door, only discover him covered in red ants. Then I noticed them coming out of his mouth, covering his eyes, and realized he had been eaten from the inside out. I ran inside crying and can only imagine how my dad felt. He got me a dog, and yes, it's staying inside, but I'll always remember my bunny and have flashbacks of that. I grew up in NY. We didn't have ants. I'm sure there were, but I don't remember them being a thing, and had no idea that could even happen. I've been through pretty traumatizing experiences, but for some reason I remember it as super sad, but never had a phobia or really actualized trauma that I can remember. Rip whatever your name was. Hey, if you make it to here, please subscribe and hit the like button. Dead online friend comes back alive after year. This story is a roller coaster, but please bear with me because it's 4 a.m. right now, and I cry as I write this. I can't handle it. March 2023, I, 20, play League of Legends, and so I was looking to make friends, specifically a duo, and bam, Alex, 19, came. We had so much fun. He was my best friend I could ever ask for. 3 weeks later, a random night, he tells me he will kill himself. I start panicking and tried to stop him in every way possible I could, but he stopped replying me altogether. Since then, I was hoping everything to turn out and be well for him. But deep down, I was feeling guilty for everything that happened and missed deeply my friend. Fast forward, today I was playing Pal World with my boyfriend when I have a notification on Discord, and I see a message from Alex. He explains me how he tried to overdose and he was put into an asylum for a really long time, but now he is better and that he misses me. I am heartbroken in relief. My coworkers set me up on a blind date. It went well, but they are acting weird about it. I, 34M, separated from my wife in early 2023 and divorced in early 2024. It was a pretty nasty breakup, and I moved to Chicago for a job to get away. I pretty much kept to myself at first, but was friendly with a couple coworkers, John 26M and Mark 26M. They were younger than me, but it was easier to bond with them as we were the only single guys in the office. We really hit it off this summer and hung out weekly, went to the Pitchfork Festival together, and really started to click. I really felt like I was coming out of my shell. A month ago, they were talking about their dating experiences, and asked me about mine. I admitted I hadn't been on a date since my wife, and they both kind of shut up and looked awkward. The next night we were out for drinks and they mentioned that they wanted to set me up with a friend of theirs, Sarah 26F. Mark showed me a picture of her on his phone, and I thought she was cute and said okay. They both looked at each other with a weird smirk on their faces, but agreed to set it up. I thought I knew what the look was about. She was a bigger girl, and I'm a bigger guy, so it made sense to them. But maybe they were unsure if they were being rude or not. I thought she was cute though, so didn't bother me and let it slip out of my mind. We set it up for the next weekend and I went. When I arrived at the restaurant, I spotted Sarah, waved and walked over, but it was weird. Sarah acted like she didn't know me and was here meeting someone else. I pulled out my phone and told her Mark had set up the date and showed her the text from him with her picture. She looked at the phone for a second and looked like she was going to cry. I quickly apologized and told her I would leave if she was uncomfortable. She paused for a second and then assured me we should continue the date. I'll be honest, the first 20 minutes I almost got up and left. She looked miserable. I have no idea what was going on, but she looked like she had just been told she was the worst person alive. I don't know what made me do it. I guess because it was going so poorly, I just lost any nerves I had and was much more confident than I had been at the beginning of the date. Or maybe I just wanted to cheer her up. She was wearing a beautiful top that really showed off her cleavage, so at one point when she was about to cry again, I just leaned in and said, "I think you are absolutely beautiful in that top. I'm sorry if I keep staring, but everything about this makes me happy to be here." She stared at me for a second, blushed, smiled, and actually became present for the date. We talked about her job, how she got to Chicago, how she had grown up with Mark and John. She mentioned she was trying to go through all the Criterion Collection films, and we bonded over a shared goal of seeing them all, and a shared annoyance that they add new films faster than we can watch them. After dinner, we walked around downtown to the park and somehow stayed out until after midnight. I know because she was visibly upset about how to get home, so I offered my place that was within walking distance. Honestly, we didn't even have sex that night. We just talked and cuddled as we fell asleep. I told her about my divorce and how hurt I had been when I caught my wife, blah, blah, blah. I hadn't actually said it out loud, but Sarah just made me comfortable. We have been together ever since, and the relationship is better than it ever was with my wife. I know it's only been a month, but mark my words, I will marry this girl. But the reason I'm here is that Mark and John have been really weird about it. I asked Mark the next day why Sarah thought she was meeting someone else, and he just said that Sarah didn't want a picture, and he must have described me poorly. But when I talked about Sarah that Monday, they both seemed off. They couldn't believe I had a good time, and John has been really annoyed. Whenever I bring her up, he leaves the room. They keep canceling on me too, mostly because I want to bring Sarah. We'll have plans, and then when I say I want to bring her, they will cancel. I think they might be jealous that I'm in a relationship. Not sure. I think I may bring this up with Sarah, though, and just see what's going on. The vibes have been super weird. Part 2. Can't believe I'm back already with an update. Things took kind of a weird turn, so thought I would write it out for you all. Yesterday, I came into our break room at work, and Mark and John were there. As soon as I sat down, John got up and excused himself, saying he had something he forgot to do. I looked at Mark and finally just asked him, "Why has John avoided me since my date with Sarah? What didn't you tell me?" Mark stuttered for a second, but then said it wasn't for him to say and told me to ask Sarah about it. I asked why he set me up if there was history there. And Mark just kind of went quiet, but then said, honestly, I didn't think he would act this way. I thought I was doing him a favor. Well, that confused me more than anything, so I texted Sarah and asked her to come over for dinner. She accepted, and I planned on discussing it that evening. When she arrived, we kissed, and the evening started rather pleasantly. But I was more nervous than our first date. I wasn't sure what this big secret was, but I knew it had the potential to do more than ruin our honeymoon period. It could destroy the relationship. She could see I was nervous and asked me what was going on. "What is your relationship with John and Mark?" I blurted it out and wish I could have had more tact. She looked at me for a minute, just like that first date when I thought she would cry. She started by telling me how she met Mark in high school, and they had always been friends, but nothing more. She deliberately didn't talk about John, and I caught on rather quickly. "Didn't John know Mark in high school too?" She was silent for a few moments and then whispered, "Yes." 2 tears ran down her cheek as she started talking about John. Her and John lived on the same street growing up and had been friends since before kindergarten. They would ride their bikes to the gas station, play games, catch lighting bugs, typical Midwest childhood stuff. They are each other's first kiss at 12, and Sarah said she had a crush on him since she could remember. John started acting different toward her as they got to middle school and then high school. John was attractive and played tennis and was outgoing, while Sarah was more reserved, stayed indoors and was heavy. She was not attractive, no guys ever showed interest, and John would ignore her at school. But at home, he acted like they were best friends. This went on from 8th grade until sophomore year, when Sarah confessed her feelings one day, and John used it to have sex with her. He ignored her even at home after that. Days later, John was dating a more popular girl, and Sarah was left heartbroken. They dated for 6 months, and when they broke up, John came to her at home and tried to rekindle the relationship. Sarah wasn't having it at first, but eventually she did, and they went back to the normal of hanging out at home, but ignoring her at school. He would get a girlfriend 3 months later, and he ignored her, and this cycle went on all through high school, and then continued into college, when they both went to university in Champaign. At college, it went a little differently. He would call her up, and she would come over, and she would cook him dinner, and they'd have sex. He did this when he was single or when he was in a relationship. She was never in a relationship. Or in her mind, I guess she was in a relationship with him, even if no one acknowledged it. She eventually got a boyfriend, but John didn't stop. He wanted to hang out. He would talk with her more in public. But as soon as she dumped him to date John, he flaked and went back to their old arrangement. This cycle then continued until she started seeing a therapist for her depression and realized just how terrible and toxic her relationship with John was. And while he treated her terribly, she had allowed it. So she decided to set boundaries with John and told him if they were going to continue seeing each other, it needed to be exclusive. This was a week before our date. When Mark contacted her, he implied that she would be meeting John, and it was at the dinner when she saw me that she realized that setting boundaries meant letting John go. When I complimented her, she realized what she had been missing out on for like 15 years and decided to actually, be on a date. John reached out a few days later with his normal shenanigans, but she blocked him. When she was done, I sat there stunned, and she cried a lot. She kept apologizing and saying she knows how dumb she was, but she truly does like me and didn't know how to bring up the John stuff without scaring me away. I probably looked mad or something because she kept apologizing and asking me to say something, but all I could think about was how John always bragged about this girl he kind of controlled, and she would always give him a BJ, and she begged him to reciprocate, but he never would. I always thought John was an ass for that, but always looked past it. I knew it was hers. So without saying a word, I got down under the table on my knees, unbuttoned her jeans, pulled her underwear down, and didn't stop until she came. She was panting hard and smiling. I just said, "Never apologize for those assholes again." And we went into the bedroom. Today I'm requesting a transfer to another department. I have such mixed emotions. I would never have met Sarah without them, but Mark and John are two of the worst people on the planet, and I hope they stay single forever. They deserve no one.